It comes down to this. Every leader faces adversity, but not everyone learns to rise through it. My guest today, Lisa Jacobs, has built her career on perseverance. She's faced moments that could have stopped her cold, challenges that tested her resolve, her confidence in her calling. But instead of breaking, she's rebuilt. Each setback has become a turning point, each hardship a lesson in strength. Lisa's journey is one of resilience and renewal, proof that leadership is forged in the fire. And while the path hasn't always been easy, especially in environments where women don't always support one another, her story shows what's possible when you push forward anyway and lead with conviction. So Lisa, welcome to the show. It's awesome to have you.
Thank you for having me, Monty.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Lisa, I want to start off with a question. You have faced your share of adversity, just like I mentioned. Can you take us back to one of those defining moments of your life where everything felt uncertain and you found a way through it?
Yes, I have faced a lot of adversity in my life, both personally and professionally. But the time that I'm thinking was one of the hardest was about 3.5 years ago. I just became VP of sales for a spinal company. We just bought a robot company. And what was the challenge was Hurricane Ian came about 6 months after I got that promotion. So building a sales team, just added 20 people to my sales team. We were rocking and rolling. Everything was going really great. And then one afternoon, I was flying home. My husband told me, "You need to get home right away." My oldest son was evacuated from Tampa and was told to come back. I took the last flight home, and my husband owned a business. We got his business, and then we hunkered down in the house and, faced many hurricanes in the past, but never had any situation that was life-threatening. By the time the hurricane turned from Tampa to Fort Myers, we were stuck. There were tornadoes, the trees were down, there was no gas. We decided to hunker down in the house. Unfortunately, hours later, we had 6 feet of water in our house. So my son, my husband, and I were stuck in our house for about 12 hours, left in a paddleboard and kayak with our dog, a cooler, and nothing else. We lost absolutely everything. All our cars, everything we've ever owned was gone. And it was a challenge. We ended up living with some friends. And of course, my other son who lives in New York couldn't get in touch with us for quite some time. So he didn't know if we were even still with us, still alive or not, or what happened to us. And then we got our grounding. I went back to work. It was about 2 weeks later. My husband owned a car wash at the time, and staying with friends. And I was about to go to the airport for a meeting I was about to close on. And I got a call from a police officer that my husband was hit in the head by one of the car wash workers. 2 guys were fighting over a tip. He tried to break it up. He got hit in the head. He had brain damage.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a series of events that happened. And then, he had 15 stitches in his head, had traumatic brain injury. Thankfully, he's doing very well now. But then a few weeks later, we found out that his father, who also was affected by the hurricane, had prostate cancer and died 2 weeks later. So it a season of life going from, getting this promotion I worked my whole career for, having this amazing opportunity to run the sales team, grew it from 8 million to 33 million in 3 years, had new technology. We were being groomed to go public and also, to potentially be acquired. And all this personal stuff was happening during that. So it was a real challenge to stay focused when you're homeless. Your husband has an injury and is going through, such a traumatic event. My oldest son ended up taking a leave of absence from college, helping to run the car wash. So he was living separately from us because we were living with different friends. There was limited housing at the time. So it was a real challenge to put all that personal stuff aside and stay focused and go back to the team. And when I was there, make sure that our team had everything we needed and continue to grow that without letting my personal situation affect my professional life.
Hi, guys. Everyone knows content is king, but most brands struggle producing authentic content their ideal customer connects with and responds to. Let me tell you about our show sponsor, Brand Managers. They have solved the authentic content problem. They produce high value social video and podcasts like this, so your brand is both visible and believable. If you need a consistent content engine across all social platforms and a sales engine that converts, you need Brand Managers. Visit brandmanagers.agency today and make sure your brand gets chosen. Wow. That is, as you can tell, now you know why I wanted to have Lisa on the show. It's kind of a harrowing story of what you went through personally during a time that should be, really great. I mean, like you said, you're advancing in your career, you're in leadership positions, things are going well, fantastically for you. But then on the other side, the emotional side, you just had to be just crazy with the ups and the downs that you've experienced there. Let's go back a little bit because I want to flush some of this out. Everybody that's listening has been through adversity. I mean, various levels. It may not be to that extreme, but other people, every time I think something's going wrong, I can always think of somebody else that has it worse. Or I will immediately hear about somebody who has it worse. But walk me back through the moment where, the hurricane comes around. And by the way, I've experienced the aftermath of hurricanes. Can't remember what year it was, but a hurricane went through Sarasota and I went down there to help do some hurricane cleanup. And if you've never experienced what cleanup is like after a hurricane touches ground, it is crazy. It's like a tornado went through an entire, city almost. Everything takes damage and most everything gets destroyed. So you guys this hurricane came through, you walked in and you've got 6 feet of water. What was going through your mind? Was it like, I'm done? Or is it just immediate get into kind of like action mode? All right, we got to do this, this, and this.
I was on survival mode. Okay, what's next? My husband, for 3 weeks, looked like a deer in headlights. He was devastated. So I knew I had to be the one to keep it together. And my oldest son was about to turn 21 on, I think the hurricane was on Thursday and Friday, and Monday he turned 21. So he missed, this is a COVID kid that missed his 21st birthday, who just had a brand new car that he outfitted the way he wanted. He was so proud of it. And, there was fish and mud and that smell of hurricane.
Yeah.
Never done cleanup, so I just had to keep it together. I don't think I felt the aftermath for most a year after, because I was in survival mode thinking about what's next. What I did know is I never wanted to go through that again. And I was definitely not moving back into that house, no matter what. So I was in survival mode. I figured out where we had to live. I figured out how I could get back to work and how to help my son get through this season and then get back to college after. My husband did not go back to work after. He couldn't handle it. He was just completely encompassed. So we definitely do handle things differently. I was a single mom for many years, and I think on survival mode with my 2 sons before I got remarried. And I was used to that. So I always knew that no matter what, I had to get up and go to work, no matter how bad a day was or what happened, and just keep moving forward. And I seem to isolate. When I'm working, I'm working. And when I'm home, I'm home. And I have to deal with things in different pockets, or I wouldn't have been able to get through this as gracefully as I did.
That is a really good point that you mentioned, that you compartmentalized. I think men are known in the way that we think of being able to compartmentalize things. It's like, okay, something happened here. I'm just going to focus on my job and not think about these things. You were clearly able to do that. Has that just always been your nature? Have you, how did you do it? Is it kind of suppressing the emotion of it all? Of saying, all right, I'm not going to be overwhelmed. I'm just going to focus on the task where this is where we got to go. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, I would say in my 20s, no, I was not that way. Like, everything was my personal life bled into my professional life. But I went through a divorce when my children were 2.5 and 8 months. And I got some really good advice from my divorce attorney is you do not respond to any legal or action for 24 hours,
Mm.
right? And you go for a walk, you deal with it, but you don't. So I trained myself not to be emotionally reactive to events. And I think if I didn't go through that life event, I wouldn't have learned those skills because I knew how to do it for my two sons. So I had to, make sure I was being the best person I could for them. And that's really what taught me to not let emotions get into my decisions or into work or things I had to accomplish.
I think that's really fascinating that you said of the advice that your attorney gave you. So often we will make decisions during kind of an extreme emotional experience, right?
Mhm.
And they always tell you, don't make decisions off of an emotional, you know, situation or something like that. It's also interesting to me that you saw that as training and that you really did have to train yourself not to do that. Was that hard?
It was hard. Hard, really hard. Yeah. I was pissed off. I was mad. I was, upset about things. And my nature would have been to react.
Yeah.
Right? I'm Portuguese, get a little feisty at times, right? Like it just I yeah, and especially when it comes to people or my family, or my children, I'm definitely a mama bear when it comes to that. So it was very challenging not to I still have to, when I'm trying to make hard decisions at work, I sleep on it, or I take time, or I go for a walk, or I clear my head. I have a routine now where I meditate. I'm very robotic about it. I meditate every morning. I say a prayer. I go work out. It clears my head, and then I can complete the tasks and do the hardest things first. So I'm very regimented and routined, but I definitely had to train myself because that was not my nature.
I did want to ask you about that. You mentioned, the meditation and the prayer. And when we were talking about this initially, about how we would kind of go with this episode, I asked you if faith played a role in that and in your perspective. Can you speak to that? Is that something that you feel was really foundational for you, or how did it help, I guess?
Yeah, I always believe I was raised Christian. I was raised actually Roman Catholic, but that changed once I got divorced. But so I'm Christian and I non-denominational. I raised my children Christian, so I have a very strong faith. Always have. There are times in my life where I haven't prayed as much or I haven't given time to in the word. But I know that I feel better and do better when I give it to God. And I really feel strongly some of these things that were just horrible. They taught me so many lessons and about myself, and so many amazing opportunities have come to me because of everything I've been through. And I'm at the point of my life and career that I want to give back to those and teach those lessons and help. One reason why I created a nonprofit, Stripes for Women in MedTech, because I really wanted it's unique for women in this industry. We're definitely the minority in some of the sectors. So I really wanted to help people navigate that, whatever that means for them. But
I think that's an excellent transition into another topic that I wanted to lean into. And you share with me a little bit more about stripes. When we spoke on our intro call, you had mentioned what a challenge it was as a woman to rise up through leadership roles, what it took to get there. And I said, is it because of the good old boy network? Was it hard? Were men trying to keep you down? And you said, no, actually the opposite. It was women that kept me down. And
Yeah.
I resonated that with you on that, not because I'm a woman, obviously, but because my wife is, and she's a nurse, and she has faced exactly what you were talking about. So I'd really love to dig into this component a little bit. Talk to me about why it's been so challenging rising up to your leadership role and what you have experienced with other women.
Yeah, I believe that there's fewer seats at the table for women in upper management. I was said no to a lot for different promotions. I felt like I had to prove myself more than men. And it's interesting that you said the good old boy network, right? I hear that time and time again. Oh, it's a good old boy network. And that's why I started Stripes. Well, what are you doing about it to change it? Why are women not lifting each other up? Why are we not being sponsors for each other in the room? Why are we not mentoring each other? We complain about we don't get equal pay or we don't get equal opportunity. Well, do something about it. Just don't complain about it. And it's very true. I had few instances, when I just became a rep at 24 years old, I was told that when I went on sales calls to please do my hair and makeup. When I was in the OR, take off all my hair and makeup and wear a sports bra. Like it was absolutely ridiculous of, how the upper management men would tell me how to dress, behave, talk, that they had none of these rules, right?
Yeah.
It's just that women in the hospital are going to be mean, nurses going to be mean to you. Don't wear any designer clothes. Not that I could afford them at the time and didn't have them, but don't wear designer clothes, right? They could wear great suits and shoes, but I could not. It was so interesting of how different it was and how they would try. And, I was one of the few females. I was the only female with the company at that time. So,
Oh, wow.
I was brought up in that company with these are the things, this is the way you have to behave, this is what you have to do, and this is the way you interact with a surgeon. Be a little flirty, but not too flirty. It was ridiculous. So I'm hoping to help younger women enter the field. It's a little bit different now because there's a lot more women in spine and orthopedic med device, but there's still some of that where women can be nastier to each other than men. Also, I've had good friends where I've been out to dinner with them and been with their families. We both were in for promotions. I ended up getting the promotion. And I would hear behind my back that she would say, Lisa's over a ski tip. She doesn't know what she's doing. So here's a friend that should be, helping each other rise and supporting each other. And it's quite the opposite. You hear a lot of backstabbing. You hear that, you must have slept with a surgeon to get the business. It's ridiculous what are said and how you're treated and how you feel in the industry. And I want to change that for the next generation of women. I want to empower them with the tools to understand how to get ahead. The hardest place to get ahead is when you're at more of like a light manager, what I'll say at regional manager level, to get to a VP of sales. It's quite a challenge and it is a huge ladder to climb. And I want to help women, if they want to be in that position, teach them, empower them how to ask for that position if that's what they want.
So the question begs, excuse me, why? Why is it that way? I mean, if I get competition, men are competitive and we're competitive with each other. But I think you said it well. Women can be nasty.
They can be they can be very jealous. They can be mean, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be the opposite. Most of my guys in the industry are, I have so many men who support me with Stripes. and repost things I put on and have helped me and mentored me and sponsored me to get the positions I have. And very few of those were women. And I think that's sad. There's been women who are outside the industry who are very supportive, but on the same team, it's interesting because I now work with a woman. She's the chief strategy officer, and I'm the US president. And we get along famously. And I love when we're on calls when we're the only two. And it's not because she's a woman, it's just because we don't even think that way.
Yeah.
It's just we're doing a job, we're trying to do it well. And it's not about being a woman or a man, it's just about who you are and what you bring to the table. And it shouldn't be that way.
Is it predominantly a jealousy issue?
I
That,
think so.
oh, I think, that should be me. I should be able to,
Yeah.
why her, type of a deal.
And I think that we shrink ourselves, right? We don't ask for what we want. We're not direct about what we want. Sometimes I'm too just straightforward and direct, right? I've been told that. But if you don't ask for what you want and you don't speak up and you don't tell people that you want to be promoted, you get looked over. And I think that women shrink in rooms. I noticed in board meetings, a lot of women put their head down and take a lot of notes instead of speaking up.
Yeah.
And I think I think, and then when someone else does, oh, they're assertive or aggressive, right? And they get jealous and nasty. It's sad.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with your story and hear about all the adversity that you had faced. And there's still so much of it I wanted to dig into, but time permitting, we can't. But that obviously, all of that adversity began to mold and define who Lisa is, right? And you learned to not react emotionally. You learned to compartmentalize and really focus on the task at hand, not the way that you feel. That had to play a role and position you to be able to serve in those leadership positions as you kind of rose up to the top. So were you able to do that when you faced the adversity, like with your friend who said, oh, she's over her ski tips, rude. But were you able to just say, well, that's her opinion, but I'm focused here. I'm still going forward. How do you overcome those things then when it comes to your career? And then you clearly created an organization called Stripes to help women with this. So it doesn't seem that it's a problem of your own too when you look at other women and be like, oh, I'm going to keep her down. She's not going to get my job.
Yeah. 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 I mean, did it hurt? Yes, it hurt. I was upset, but I realized I don't want someone like that in my life, and that's her issue. And I only have limited time. I work a lot. I have 2 children. I have a husband. I have a beautiful family. So I just don't give people the time who have those behaviors. I move on. I want people who are uplifting, who are positive, who, I try to surround myself with people who have the same goals that I do. And I just didn't respond to her, and I just really cut her out of my life. She kept texting and calling and asking why. And I said, you know why I'm not communicating back. And that was it. I didn't do the drama, so I don't engage in that type of activity.
Yeah.
And again, that was something I had to train myself not to do
Mm-hmm.
and not get upset over that time and effort you put in those friendships. You mourn them, you cut them out like a tumor, and you move on.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your relationships have seasons as well. I mean,
Mhm.
they always do. But do you have an example of when another woman did show up for you and did support you and kind of modeled really the way that it should be?
Absolutely. So I did for Stripes my first live networking event just a few months ago, and it was a recruiter who actually helped support it and pay for the entire event.
Mm.
It was a co-promotion. And I had these group of women that I used to work with who actually helped me through the hurricane, helped clean out the house, helped salvage anything small that we did have. But they all flew up, the 4 of them and who I used to work with, and we all slept in my hotel room. We're all there. They were there early, but they have completely supported me through absolutely everything. So I have a great network of women that are really good friends, support Stripes, support me, show up for those first events that I don't know if anyone's going to show up at all to fly from Florida to New York just to make sure that they know that I'm supported and loved and that they want to see me succeed. So, yes, I have a great network now.
That's
And it's,
fantastic.
you know, it's how you treat people when you pay it forward. I think it comes back tenfold. I think that that is the biggest lesson to learn. It's a big industry, but it's small and relationships matter. You don't burn bridges. You treat people well. You always do the right thing. And I think that's how you truly succeed. And then when adversity comes, you know your North Star. You know the road to get back on because you always do the right thing.
That's fantastic. And I agree. I, I think that's well said. How do you personally create a culture of encouragement and accountability and really for the women that you lead?
Yeah, I make them stretch to what's uncomfortable. But then you're always a safety net. I think that being uncomfortable is good. But when they're scared, you might need to give them a little push. I've given a few women that will say a little push. One of them wanted to go start her own coaching business. So I was mentoring her through Stripes and I gave her a push. The other one wanted to go and be on her own and be a consultant. I pushed her off the ledge. You got to take risk and you can always find another job. But if you're not passionate about it, you can't always have your dreams. So I've pushed people off the ledges a little bit and made them uncomfortable because I knew that's what they needed. And I know they've been there for me.
I think that is a component of leadership, that oftentimes is overlooked is that you're willing to push somebody off the ledge to face the adversity really only because you have faced the adversity. You've been off the ledge so many times, you know what it takes to get back up to where you need to be. And maybe the ledge you're on is not supposed to be the ledge you should be on, and you need to get off of it so that you can go to where you need to flourish. How do you recognize the difference? Or how do you determine who needs to be just kind of pushed off the ledge, but who needs a little bit more nurturing and encouragement?
Good question. I think the people who have the skill sets and the know how, but are just fearful, right?
Hmm.
I see so many people who are just in their comfort zone
Hmm.
and just scared of the unknown and like the safety net. It's comfortable. But I know I don't grow in my comfort zone. And I know I wouldn't be where I am today if I stayed in certain places just because it was comfortable and not have taken risks. So I always encourage people to do the same. But I know it's scary. It's fearful. I was a single mom for a long time, supporting 2 sons of my own. So I understand how that feels to jump. So I think that the risk aversion ratio, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that they have a safe place to land if it doesn't work out too.
Do you have any habits or disciplines that you created and established for yourself during those moments? You mentioned, the meditation, prayer. Are there any other habits? And because mindset is so critical in these moments where we're facing adversity, and the stronger the adversity gets, the more important mindset becomes. What do you do? What are the disciplines that you've established for yourself to get you to the place of overcoming those things when it happens?
I my husband would say I am completely robotic, and I am in some ways. Um, and maybe that's why I work for a robot company. But, um, I wake up at the same time most mornings, unless I'm traveling for work. I wake up at 4:30 or 5, 4:30 most days. I have a routine in the morning where I meditate, I exercise, I make my priority list for that day of the most important things I have to do. If I didn't do it the night before, I brain dump because I get anxious when I don't brain dump, meaning I list all the things I have to do. Then I categorize them on personal, professional. Then I take the three top things that I need to get done to move the needle, and I do those first. So I really exercise that idea of brain dumping, or just my mind races, I feel distracted, and I notice that's a habit that I really have to do to be productive. So those are the things. And then in the evening, I turn off everything around 7 o'clock at night. I go to bed by 10 o'clock. I like to be in bed by 9:30, sleep by 10 o'clock every night. I do the same things. I take off my to-do list and I write any emails or, do anything I need to do right before I shut off. But I prepare for the next day. I pack my gym bag, I pack my work clothes, pack my food. So I am fairly regimented during the week. I try not to drink during the week. I notice if I don't get enough sleep, then I'm not as productive. I don't eat well. I don't take my vitamins, all those type of things. During the week, I'm very regimented and I say no a lot more than I say yes to things because I know, going over a friend's house for dinner or going out on a Wednesday night for drinks, as much as I would love to do it, I try to save it for the weekends.
Wow, that is some impressive discipline. I wish I had that level of discipline in my life. I know things would go a lot better if it did. I really like the idea of the brain dump. I really like the idea of doing the most difficult things or the most important things first the next day. And I've always been told, you have to kind of define what your day is tomorrow, the night before, right? Which I need to do more of too. So congratulations on that. Tell me, how do you define success differently now than you did earlier in your career?
I find success as I'm excited and passionate about whatever I'm doing. I went into med device because I wanted to bring new technology to help patients. I got into this field because my brother was born with one leg longer than the other. And I found a job that was a leg lengthening device that if they had it when he was younger, he wouldn't have had his amputation.
Mm.
So I love passion products. I love, seeing the outcomes of new technology and bringing it to patients and bringing it to surgeons and seeing it in the works. I love seeing reps succeed. I love seeing the women of Stripes succeed. So success for me is, a lot of different things, but it's mostly about what I'm passionate about and what makes me feel good at the end of the day. It's not about the amount of money I make or the amount of sales I make or numbers. And when I was younger, it was definitely more about the I hit quota or I did this and keep
Yeah.
on. But that number, you're just chasing your tail.
Yeah.
When you're doing that. So for me, it's more about the passion projects and making a difference.
Lisa, when you think about your own journey, what's the most important truth that adversity has taught you?
To always do the right thing, to always don't take the hard road always, right? Sometimes we we make decisions because it's exciting or different or new, but I try to always stay true to the way I was raised, to my faith, to doing what I believe is right. And I believe that helps me stay strong and keeps me grounded and stay humble. I think sometimes when you do things that are just exciting and feel good for that moment, I've seen how it can lead to more destructive paths and take you down rabbit holes that I don't want to go down. I've been through enough
Yeah.
in my life for adversity. So if I can control the adversity, not like a hurricane, but if I can control it, then I'm going to always try to stay on that right path.
You know, if you could leave women, really any leader, but women, since you're a woman leader, with one belief about what's possible after struggle, what would that be?
That you can achieve anything that you want to achieve if you work hard enough consistently at it. And I think the key word there is consistent. I think people quit too early. When things get hard, people look for something else. But if you forge through the fire and you keep on pulling through, you will get out on the other side. So for me, the key word here is being consistent.
Terrific. Okay, with just a minute or two, for the ladies that are listening and gleaning from you, if you would, talk to them a little bit about Stripe and how can they get involved? Who specifically is it for? How can they get involved? And what should they expect if they get involved in it?
Sure. So Stripes is geared to medtech. It's all inclusive. So whether you're trying to get into medtech, whether you're an engineer, product manager, sales, I don't care if you're in spine, ortho, neuro, aesthetics, it's all inclusive for anybody who is in the med device, medtech, healthcare space. It is a group of networking women who we have monthly webinars for education. We have Wind Down Wednesdays, which is really fun. It's a smaller group of women who it's really for them. It's a live networking event to bring great things for your goals, or you're going through this at work. It's a safe place to talk about anything that you'd like. And everyone, brings their wine glass, which is fun. We also have women in career transition with a lot of consolidation of companies right now. There's a lot of people looking for jobs, so we want to support. So we have guest speakers for resume building, contract negotiation, and all different things that pertain to either changing a career or looking for a new job, or maybe even going out on your own. We have live networking events throughout the country, and we have a mentorship. So we have on a quarterly basis a mentorship program, a one-on-one. So we try to connect you with someone who's similar in your background. So we have mentor and mentee programs. So we have a lot of new things going on. We're creating a Slack channel. We're creating one event a year that is going to be a weekend event for us to all get together. So we have a lot going on, but you can find us on stripe.network is our website, or on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Lisa, you've been an excellent guest. I knew you would be. I love your story. Thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you for being vulnerable in that and allowing us to take a little peek into your life. For those of you that are still listening, let me sum up our episode for you, okay? Adversity is something that happens to all of us. Sometimes it's things we can't control. That's often most of the time it is. Sometimes we create the adversity for ourselves. However that happens, lean into it. Don't shy away. Don't shrink down into your own emotions and curl up into a ball and think I can never get through it. Take the advice from Lisa and the encouragement from her story about how she compartmentalized her emotions so that she could focus on the tasks at hand and how she could get through them. Lean on people around you that will be a support to you, and push away people who are going to continue to hold you down or try and keep you down in a way that's not good for you or not giving you good advice. Okay? Find the things, your center, if you would, the disciplines that can help you get through those difficult times, And as you do those things and as you lean into them, you'll find that not only will you get through them, you'll learn from them, and then you'll become somebody like Lisa, who is a leader and a dynamo in her field that can also pour into other people and teach them how to do the same. Lisa, it is so awesome to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.